Now, there's been breaking news out of the United Kingdom overnight where pioneering heavy metal singer Ozzy Osborne has died at the age of 76. Known as the Prince of Darkness, who once bit the head off a bat on stage, the legendary British singer reached a new generation of fans and launched a new era of reality television in the early 2000s with The Osbournes.
The Black Sabbath frontman was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease 6 years ago, and his death comes just over a fortnight since he had a final retirement performance in his hometown Birmingham, as Europe Bureau Chief Zoe Ford reports.
I'm in Regent Sound Studios in Soho in central London, and this is a significant place as we remember Ozzy Osbourne, because in this room Black Sabbath recorded its first 2 albums. Ozzy Osbourne's family today confirmed his death with a statement that said, "It is with more sadness than words can convey that we have to report that our beloved Ozzy Osbourne has passed away. He was with his family and surrounded by love." He was a pioneer of heavy metal, one of rock's wildest frontmen, the lead singer of Black Sabbath, but he was also known for his extravagant stage persona and his wild stunts, including one in 1982 when he ate the head off a bat live on stage. He said he thought it was a prop, but later had to have a rabies shot. He then gained a whole new legion of fans in the early 2000s when he and his family were reality TV stars in a show about the family. So people got to see him not just as a musician, but as a very funny person. It was just 3 weeks ago in Birmingham here in the UK where Ozzy Osbourne performed for the final time as Black Sabbath reunited for the first time in 20 years for what many called a farewell concert. Ozzy Osbourne was seated for a lot of that concert. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease back in 2019. He thanked the crowd, and it was said to be a very emotional gig. We've been receiving a lot of tributes online from people who knew Ozzy Osbourne and loved him from Black Sabbath. They put up a photograph from that farewell gig in Birmingham that said "Ozzy Forever" in the caption. Metallica put up a photograph with the heartbroken emoji. Elton John said that Ozzy Osbourne was a dear friend, a huge trailblazer, a true legend, and one of the funniest people I've ever met. While Ronnie Wood from the Rolling Stones said, "So very sad to hear of the death of Ozzy Osbourne. What a lovely goodbye he had back to the beginning in Birmingham." And from UB40's Ali Campbell, a true Birmingham legend, "You didn't just shape culture, you defined it." They're just some of the tributes that we've been receiving from Ozzy Osbourne as we remember him after he's died at the age of 76.
That's our Europe Bureau Chief, Zoe Ford, reporting there. And a little later on the show, we're going to take you to Melbourne, where a few people have been reflecting on Ozzy Osbourne's life. But first, we're going to go to Sydney, where a teenage boy is dead and another is fighting for his life this morning after a jet ski crash in the city's south. Max Tillman is on the scene for us and he joins us now. Good morning, Max. This is a terrible tragedy, it seems. What do we know at this stage?
It really is, James. Well, at about 6 p.m. last night, paramedics and New South Wales Police were called here to Tom Ugly's Bridge in Sylvania in Sydney South following reports from members of the public of a serious jet ski crash. Now, upon arriving, New South Wales Police had to physically enter the water itself in order to retrieve a 14-year-old boy who was described as being in a critical condition. He was rushed to Sydney Children's Hospital with what has been described by authorities as a severed arm. Now, a short time later, the body of a 15-year-old boy who we understand was on the jet ski at the time was recovered from the water. He was brought to shore where New South Wales paramedics tried to revive him, but unfortunately he was declared deceased at the scene. Let's take a quick listen to what police had to say.
At this stage, it would appear that the jet ski has collided with an object or an obstacle in the water, which has then thrown these 2 boys from the jet ski, where they've sustained these injuries. The boy who sustained the injuries had a severed arm.
Now, New South Wales Water Police have been on the scene this morning. These investigations are still ongoing. Now, in New South Wales, those under the age of 16 are able to pilot a personal watercraft or a jet ski, but there are some conditions on those licences, particularly those under the age of 16 cannot pilot a personal watercraft after sunset. We haven't confirmed whether or not either of the boys were in possession of a licence. Now, that 14-year-old boy is still at Sydney Children's Hospital as these investigations continue, and he remains in a serious condition.
All right, Max, that is a very sad story indeed. Thanks for joining us this morning.
To more news, the South Australian Government is continuing to press the federal government to declare the state's algal bloom problem a national disaster. Premier Peter Malinauskas yesterday announced the state would match the federal government's $14 million pledge to help tackle the crisis. The total of $28 million covers science and research, cleanups, industry and community support and communication.
Staying in South Australia, and police have resumed the search for the remains of Julian Story, who was allegedly murdered by his partner in Port Lincoln in June. A former reality TV contestant, Tamika Chesser, is in custody charged with his murder. Investigators say they have a number of leads and new search areas after reviewing significant amounts of security camera vision.
A third person has been charged over the death of a man on the Sunshine Coast last week. 57-year-old Zdravko Bilic was found with stab wounds in the front yard of his home in Warana. An 18-year-old woman was charged with his murder yesterday. 2 teenage boys have previously also been charged.
The US President Donald Trump has decided to withdraw his country from UNESCO, the UN's culture and education agency. The Trump administration says UNESCO supports what it calls woke, divisive cultural and social causes, criticising it for supporting sustainable development goals and accusing it as well of anti-Israel rhetoric. Due to the rules of the agency, the withdrawal of the United States will not take place until the end of next year.
And the Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Catherine, have shared a picture of Prince George and a brief video of him with his siblings to celebrate his 12th birthday. Prince George is the royal couple's firstborn son and is second in line to the British throne.